Good Tuesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock in time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Players' Day off in Berea. Deshaun Watson will be the starting quarterback as they get set to travel to Houston to play the Texans, Deshaun's former team, Sunday at 1 o'clock. Let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Mary Kay, how important are the next 6 games with Deshaun Watson as quarterback for Kevin Stefanski, do you think?
Well, I don't think that they're necessarily just that important for Kevin Stefanski. I still believe that these next few games could determine whether or not the Browns can keep playoff hopes alive. Now, as crazy as that sounds, because their playoff hopes are only at 4.8% right now, I believe that they can win every single game on their schedule the rest of the way. Certainly wouldn't be easy, but it's possible and it's doable if they just go out there and try to do it one at a time. So I think that's got to be the first order of business, is to try to win the next game, which I think they will win the next game. And then obviously to try to go beat the Bengals, which we know they match up pretty well against the Bengals. So I think that that's, the first thing that they have to do is try to win as many games as they possibly can, and then see what happens in terms of the playoff picture when all is said and done. But I don't think Kevin Stefanski is on any kind of a hot seat. I don't think that, this is some big trial for him. They're committed to him as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and that's not changing anytime soon.
No, I would agree. It's finally kind of the offense that Kevin Stefanski envisioned when they went out and when he was part of the recruiting process that went out and got Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when you see David Njoku making a catch like that in the back of the end zone, you can start to, the wheels start churning on what Deshaun Watson and David Njoku might be able to do together. I think they can be dynamite together. I think that we'll find out a lot about Kevin Stefanski and what he can do in terms of play calling now that he's got a quarterback that can do anything. I mean, there's nothing that Deshaun Watson cannot do on the football field in terms of anything that you want to run, any throw that he can make. So I do think that it will open things up a bit.
Yeah, I would agree. This is kind of interesting. This is from Jack Duffin. And take a look at how much Kevin Stefanski has elevated quarterbacks when he has worked with them. You see Kirk Cousins, pre-Kevin Stefanski, 26th, with Kevin Stefanski, 6th. Baker Mayfield, before Kevin Stefanski, 17th, with Kevin Stefanski, 8th. Jacoby Brissett, pre-Kevin Stefanski, 15th, with Kevin Stefanski, 9th. Now, Deshaun Watson was pretty good. With Kevin Stefanski, he was 3rd before Kevin Stefanski. So if that trend continues, it's either got to be 1 or 2. But the bottom line is, Mary Kay, people sit there and scream and say, run the ball and do this and do that. Kevin Stefanski elevates quarterback plays with his system and his offense. That's one of the reasons the Browns want him as their head coach.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where people want him to run the ball more and do this or that, or, try, a trick play or whatever. But he's got everything in that playbook. And I think that, he will be able to utilize it all. And I think he's going to do a good job for Deshaun Watson. And I think to speak of this in terms of, and I've seen it, I hear people say it, I see it on social media, that this is some sort of referendum on Kevin's job or career in these last 6 games. I'm not feeling that. I just think that this is an opportunity for him to really showcase his own skills.
Yeah, this is a guy, he clearly wanted to be, the quarterback of his offense. So I'm curious to see what the offense looks like. How do you think it'll look different with Deshaun Watson?
Well, I think that, fundamentally it will still probably be the same, but you can emphasize and focus on some different things. You can probably, call more downfield shots. I think one of the things that we will see is more passes into the end zone, more red zone passing. I mean, most of their touchdowns that they scored were on the ground game. And I just think that you're going to see a whole lot more touchdown passes. In 2020, he had 33 touchdown passes against only 7 interceptions. So again, I mean, they're going to take those kind of shots. I've always said that David Njoku was an 8 touchdown a year tight end. You've probably heard me say that. Everybody has heard me say that. Well, I think he will be that with Deshaun Watson. Might not all happen this year, but next year, if they had the whole season together, I'm guessing it will be 8+ for him. So yes, I think that will be one of the biggest things. And then you'll see more designed runs, more called runs. You'll see probably more RPOs, some things like that will enable Deshaun Watson to utilize his mobility.
Who do you think, what other players on the offense do you think benefit as much as anybody from Deshaun Watson coming in and playing?
I think all of the pass catchers, because once again, they really focused on the running game and scoring touchdowns via the run. So I think that all of the pass catchers will benefit from Deshaun being out there. And, even like a young guy, like a David Bell, he's starting to come around. I'm sure that he'll get the ball more, maybe even in Anthony Schwartz. I think you saw signs of life from the embattled Anthony Schwartz in this past game. And I know that that Deshaun has been instrumental in helping Anthony Schwartz feel good about himself. He's got the speed, he's got the talent. And if they keep showing that they believe in him, they just might turn him into something like they did with David Njoku. I think David will benefit, Harrison Bryant, you name it. Anybody who catches the ball, they'll be better off with Deshaun throwing it to them.
Do you think Nick Chubb benefits? Are teams going to have to not necessarily be as anxious to put that extra guy in the box with Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to try to do that, then you're going to pay for it. So I think everyone benefits. I think the running game will benefit. I think the run game and the play action and the passing game will all work hand in hand. I know that Kevin Stefanski has always really liked, marrying up the run and the pass and creating, confusion about what's coming. And so I think he'll be able to do that even more.
So you mentioned Anthony Schwartz, and I know you tweeted this. I was thinking it exactly about the same time you tweeted it in reference to Schwartz and his speed, and the reason that they didn't give up on him is because you can't coach speed. Do you think he's kind of turning a corner?
Yeah, I think so. And if you really show a young player that you believe in him and you keep showing faith in him and you don't let him get down on himself and you really work on his confidence, then sometimes you can pull out of him what you know is there. And that's what they've been doing. And you heard Kevin Stefanski talk about him yesterday. He was like overjoyed that somebody asked about Anthony so that he could praise him. And that's what Anthony needs. Anthony's working really, really hard. And he's just, some players respond better to a kick in the pants. Some players respond better to having confidence shown in them. And I think that Anthony is in the latter camp. And I think that the belief that this team has shown in him is really helping him blossom.
Yeah, remember, Deshaun Watson had a guy named Will Fuller that caught deep passes with regularity. And Anthony Schwartz is probably a little bit faster than Will Fuller is even.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, that kind of speed, like as I said in my tweet and as you mentioned, you can't coach it, and teams want it. You can stretch defenses. You can clear out. Some space. You can open things up for other guys. If you have to worry about that guy downfield, then it really does help your offense. So they've also got Amari. If you could get Anthony Schwartz up and running to the point where teams really have to think about him out there, I think it's really going to help everyone. And if you've got Amari's speed for the deep threat, and you've got Anthony, and then you've got Donovan Peoples-Jones doing what he does, and David Njoku, this can be a very explosive offense.
All right, before we head to break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. And I just want to say that being a Browns fan is just about having hope. No matter how bad or how good our team was, once training camp begins again, all of us have hope in our eyes. Beating the Buccaneers has given us, well, at least some of us, a little bit of hope. At this point in the season, being 4-7, that's all we can ask for. Now enter Deshaun Watson. And as a Browns fan, I have never been more excited for this team. He might be our real franchise quarterback that we've been searching for since we returned in 1999. With Watson returning, he has given us hope. And as Browns fans, that's all we can ask for. Thanks. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kay, that's a very valid point. As far as talent on the football field, Browns haven't had many that have the talent that this guy who's about to take over as quarterback has.
Well, not many have a quarterback like this. It's why the Haslams were willing to take this enormous risk and take on this kind of controversy and spend that kind of money. I mean, he's right up there with the best of the best. I mean, you can say, hey, go out and face Patrick Mahomes, and you would think that the Browns would have a really good chance to win that game with what they have and with Deshaun Watson. You can say the same thing about going against a Josh Allen or really anybody else. So that's why they did this. That's what they're hoping for. Now, will it happen right away? Will it happen in the first? I think it'll be there in the first game for sure, because the Houston Texans are 1-9-1. Will it be consistent throughout the whole next 5 games? We'll have to see about that. But just going forward, that's what this was all about: having a quarterback that could get the Cleveland Browns to the Super Bowl.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Take a little bit of a look at what Myles Garrett did against the Buccaneers. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, this is Buddy, stuck in Baltimore, and I'll be super disappointed if I don't hear that Cleveland Stadium this week doesn't give an unbelievable ovation to Brissett. He has earned it. He's the kind of guy that if everybody on your team had a mental makeup of this guy, you'd be one hell of a team. He's modest, and he plays hard as can be, and he just never puts himself first, and he just does every single thing you want a leader to do. And I hope they stand and cheer for him for a couple of minutes, because I really like the guy, and I think he deserves it.
Mary Kay, Jacoby Brissett played probably better than most expected, and, should be appreciated without question.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I have been saying, and I truly believe this, Jacoby Brissett did more than his share to try to hand over a playoff contender to Deshaun Watson in these first 11 games. If the special teams and defense had only done their part, I think they would have at least 6 victories right now. And they would be handing over a contender to Deshaun Watson. So again, Jacoby did everything that he could possibly do, and he will continue to do a lot. One of the best things that he does is, unites the quarterback room. That's a really close-knit room, and Deshaun is a huge part of that. Those two guys are friends, and I think that will help Deshaun going forward.
All right. A guy that takes a little bit of unfair criticism, I think, and I think you think as well, as Myles Garrett. Let's take a look at former NFL player Brian Baldinger breaking down Myles Garrett late in the fourth quarter in overtime against the Buccaneers, and this is good stuff.
When this game was in the balance, Myles Garrett took the game over. I mean, this is 3rd and 13 right here. 2.5 minutes to go in the game. He turns the corner right there, and Brady tries to step up, and he gets met by Clowney and Garrett takes him down. They got to punt the ball away. All right? You know what would happen. So now we're in overtime. It's 3rd and 4 right here. Again, Garrett turns the corner. But illegal hands to the face right here is going to get flagged. And so Brady trying to get creative, getting the ball out of his hands to Rachaad White for 10 yards and a first down, gets called back. So instead of 3rd and 4, first down, it's 3rd and 14. Here comes Myles Garrett right here on 3rd and 14. Like, he's just going to run through them all and hit Brady right here. And Brady has got a wide open Mike Evans right there. That's where he's throwing it. Except he can't complete it when Garrett is just hitting him right in the face and the ball bounces off the turf. And then 39 in overtime right here. It was time for Myles Garrett to close this game out. Get the ball back to the offense one more time. And he did it. Not many guys that have ever played the game, in the history of the game, can turn the corner at that angle, grab some grass, and then take down the goat. End the game. Myles Garrett did what he's paid to do in this one. He finished the game, took it over.
And Mary Kay, again, he's getting double teamed and gets a lot, and people expect a lot. I know that comes with the contract. He's really good. I mean, appreciate how good this guy is.
Yeah, you know, that is the kind of game that you expect out of Myles Garrett. That's what you need to do. When you're a number 1 overall pick, you have to take over the football game. That's what we've seen Aaron Donald do for years. That's what we see TJ Watt do. And it was great to see Myles step up and do it. That's when you need it. In a game like that you have to keep your playoff hopes alive, you need your number 1 overall pick to come through for you, and he did that in an absolutely huge way.
This is also kind of interesting. So this is non-sack tackle for losses and run stuff. So it's a metric against the run. First in this is linebacker Matt Milano from Buffalo. Second is Jonathan Allen. Sixth is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with 14, a couple behind the guys that are tied at number 1. So it's a pretty good indication that Owusu-Koramoah is getting in the backfield on run plays and creating some disruption in the run game. Important to note, he's missed a couple of games as well with injury.
Yeah, you know what? I think what we're seeing happen here is the really good players on the Cleveland Browns are starting to shine. And that's what you need your top players to do when the chips are down. When you get into December and everything is on the line, that's when you need your star players to really come out and play their best ball. And we are starting to see some of that. I think earlier in the season, defensive woes had so much to do with a lack of continuity in personnel. I mean, they had so many injuries, guys leaving the lineup, guys not being able to play for 3 games, 4 games the whole season, whatever the case may be. I mean, you name it, and I can name, 6, 7 guys that missed 3 or 4 games or the whole season. So I think that was a major reason that they weren't coming together. Then they were hoping that some of the younger guys would really step up. And, that didn't happen early on in the season. But I think they still have the last 6 games of the season to show what they can do as well. So, they've had some good things. The most pleasant surprise of the whole season has been Martin Emerson and Myles strapping the team on his back. JOK, as you mentioned, the defense is showing up now.
All right, ESPN's power rankings for this week and expectations along with those. So they have the Browns ranked at number 24. That's up a couple of spots from a week ago, up 5 actually. Realistic expectations, hanging around the playoff conversation and being in playoff contention. And we talked earlier, you kind of believe they can do that. I think it's probably going to come down to that Bengals and Ravens game that they have back-to-back after the Texans.
Yeah, I don't even know if they can afford to lose 1 game, because I just don't think 9 games is going to be enough to get that last wild card spot with all of the tiebreakers. I really think that they have to win out if they want a chance to make the playoffs. And that's going to be incredibly, incredibly hard to do. When I say I think it can happen, it doesn't mean I necessarily think it will happen, but I think it's possible. And you can't say that about every team in the NFL, that they can win their final 6 games. Nobody would say it about the Texans. Nobody would say it about the Broncos right now. Nobody would necessarily say it about the Steelers or a bunch of other teams. But you can say it about the Cleveland Browns because of the talent that they have on this football team and because of Deshaun Watson returning. once that happens, anything can happen. And that's why these guys really do believe. That's why they're so hopeful.
Yeah. Again, as you mentioned, probably no margin for error at this point, but definitely possible. Another guy that's been, I don't want to say a pleasant surprise, but has developed like you probably thought he would, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Do you think he has kind of played his way into an extension or a new contract?
I think so. I think they should be talking about it now. I mean, he was an absolute find for them, a gem in the 6th round. And that's the kind of homegrown talent that you really want to keep. He'll be heading into the final year of his contract, so you don't have to do anything right away. You can work on it in the offseason, but certainly that should be one of your priorities, to keep Donovan Peoples-Jones in a Cleveland Browns uniform here. He's been tremendous, and I think they will do it.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back and hear from you. Voicemail of Truth and Reason. Also, look ahead to this Texans matchup. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I just actually did the playoff simulator today, and because we beat the Bucs, and if we win, if we go all out these next 5 or 6 games, however many games we got, I think we can slip in, and this is a big possible, at 6-7. I did all the variables, and regardless of what happens, we still slip in, and that's going to be the difference. No matter what happens, as long as we handle business, I think we could slip in at 6 or 7.
And Mary Kay, you've already said you think they need to win out, and I would agree. I don't think you can. I'm with you. I don't think 9 wins get you in.
I don't think so. There are enough teams already that have 8 victories, 7 victories, a team in the AFC with 9 victories, that I think it would be very difficult, again, with the tiebreakers to get in if you only win 9 games. I think it's going to take 10. Again, it's not impossible. It will be hard. It will be really hard. You can't have one of those clunkers. You can't have one of those games where you get some takeaways, because the turnover battle is the great equalizer. You can play down for down and you can have more talent than the other team, but if you don't win the turnover battle, you're not going to win the game most of the time. So they have to be careful of that. But if they can protect the football, then I think that they can win all the rest of their games, and that's absolutely what it's going to take.
So, CBS Sports playoff picture standings. The Browns are currently 13th in the AFC, 3 games out of the last playoff spot. And you see the remaining schedule: Texans at Cincinnati, Ravens at home, Saints, Commanders, and then at Pittsburgh. So again, there are a couple of them there that are tough without question, but it isn't as brutal as the 6 games you just went through.
No. Not at all. I mean, they had a grueling stretch there, and it was tough. And they're going to be kicking themselves that they lost some games that they should have won. They should have beat the Jets. They should have been able to go down and beat the Falcons. They should have won some of these games. And they'll probably look at it as a missed opportunity. Obviously, they will if they don't make the playoffs. And I think any other team in the NFL is going to be thanking their lucky stars that they don't have to play the Browns in the playoffs if they don't get there. So, one game at a time. Kevin Stefanski was saying that even, after in the locker room that, they won that game because they believed they could do it. You saw the belief in Myles Garrett. You saw the belief in David Njoku. And, again, they are a long shot and they have to be almost perfect. But at least as we speak at this moment, they still have a chance.
All right, this is kind of interesting. So Tony Busby, the lawyer for the 20 people that filed suit against Deshaun Watson, and 10 of his accusers will be in a suite at the Browns-Texans game in Houston. That seems like a bit much. I'm not quite sure what purpose that serves, but okay, we'll because they're going to make that news, we will say that is there, and that's going to be something that they have to deal with, I'm sure, as they go through this.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun, that might not impact Deshaun per se because they're going to be up in a suite and he's down on the field. And so it's not like he's going to necessarily see them or hear them or anything like that. But their very presence will create it will generate a lot of stories and a lot of attention. And, and Tony Busby wants the accusers to be heard. Now, the only thing that, the one thing that has kind of crossed my mind a little bit is the fact that a lot of them have already settled. He represented 25 accusers. And actually 30 because 30 settled with the Texans. So a lot of them have settled their cases. And so therefore, I could see if Lauren Baxley, who still has an outstanding case, she didn't settle her case. So that one would seem to maybe make a little bit more sense to me. Not so sure about, some of the others, but Tony Busby wants the accusers to be heard. They want to be heard. And so this is the strategy.
Yeah, and again, it is. It's a PR strategy without question. All right, so the Texans on the field are a little bit of a mess. They changed quarterbacks from Davis Mills to Kyle Allen last week. And then take a look. This is the guy that has been very good for them, Dameon Pierce, rookie running back. 604 yards after contact, first in the NFL, 53 missed tackles forced. That's Nick Chubb-like, first in the NFL. 20 carries, 10-plus yards, 83.0 Pro Football Focus grade. Now, having said that, he has struggled the last couple of weeks being Dameon Pierce. Again, this is a team that the Browns should beat, but those numbers running the football concern you just because of the way the Browns played run defense prior to that Buccaneers game.
Well, yeah, they're going to have to try to run the ball on the Cleveland Browns, certainly. But the Browns are kind of getting it together in that regard. After the first series against the Bucs, where they gave up 56 yards rushing, they only gave up 40 the rest of the whole game. So they're tightening up on their run defense. As you mentioned, JOK is coming on strong. Sione Takitaki has done a really nice job. Tony Fields is starting to get some playing time. Some of the other young guys are too. So they're doing better in that regard. And yeah, I mean, that will have to be the Texans' game plan, but I think the Browns will be ready for the challenge.
When you look at this game, what are some of the keys from the Browns side of things? What do you want to see from the offense, and what do you expect to see with Deshaun Watson?
Well, you know what? I mean, I don't think you put a thoroughbred out there on the field and not use him. I mean, I think they're going to take advantage of his arm talent, his leg talent. I don't think they're just going to run the ball. I think they'll do what they need to do to move the ball and score points and get him tuned up and warmed up for what's to come. I mean, this might not be the toughest game of the year for him, but he's got the Bengals coming up. He's got the Ravens coming up. He's got some tough assignments. And so I think they will give him an opportunity to use that arm that he's been working on for the last 11 weeks.
Are you at all, you hear a lot made because it's been almost 2 years since he's played in a, full-speed NFL regular season game. You concerned at all about the rust? Does that get knocked off reasonably quickly? What are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I mean, he's played a lot of football throughout his career. He's played, a lot of football at Clemson, and, he's not going to forget how to play football. I think he'll be fine. You just have to get used to, the speed of the game a little bit and taking some hits. But for the most part, I think he'll be okay.
How excited do you think the Browns are to see what this offense looks like with Deshaun Watson? Just the players, the coaches. This is why you go out and you pay a guy $230 million and you trade and you deal with all that they've dealt with, is to see what this looks like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's like having Myles Garrett on defense. It's a star player. and everybody's excited about what he can do on the football field. The coaches are extremely excited about what he brings to the table. Even just watching him in practice, it's different. It just looks different when you have an elite football player like that out there. So I think that everybody is super excited to hear Amari Cooper talk about it, or any of the guys who are going to have a chance to catch the football. They can't wait, and it's the same for the whole entire coaching staff.
Before I let you go, one of the things that jumped out when you go back and you try to find video of Deshaun Watson, he uses his legs to extend plays and then throws on the run really well and really I mean, that is just an absolute deflating nightmare combination for defenses when you do what he can do is in terms of extending plays and then using his arm downfield.
Yeah, he's really, really good at that, and he puts the ball where it needs to go. He puts the ball where only the receiver can get it, and I think that's going to be why you're going to see so many more touchdown passes and why he's had so many in his career. I mean, remember back in the day when Baker would get into the red zone and the end zone, and he would just gun it, and it would end up out of the back of the end zone, and he really had a hard time really throwing touchdown passes as his career went on. That's not going to be a problem for Deshaun Watson. He can get it there. He can get it where you need it, and I think everybody will eat at the trough.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. I appreciate it very much, Mary Kay.
Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot. Make sure you check her out. Great Browns coverage, cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We continue talking Browns. Casey Kinnamon on the other side of the break. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns as Browns get ready to head down to Houston to play the Texans in Deshaun Watson's first regular season game as a Brown. 3 takeaways from the Browns game last week, the win over Tampa Bay. This from Bleacher Report. Number 1, Browns have not given up on the season. Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon, Dawg Pound Daily. Casey, they kind of went after it late and got it done in that game.
Yeah, they showed the fight. You know, they stayed with it for the entire game, and when it was time to go, they were able to put their best effort forward and escape with the W.
Number 2 in this, 3 takeaways from the Browns win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Martin Emerson Jr. could be a star. And Casey, it seems like we talk about him every week. The more I see of him, the more I like him, and the more I want to see of him.
Yeah, I tend to shy away from words like star, especially if we're talking about a young player like Emerson. Do I think he's going to be in a bunch of commercials? Probably not. But, like, you got to love the fight in this kid. He's put in an unenviable situation. You're going out there against Mike Evans, probably a future Hall of Famer. Went toe-to-toe with him, took their best shots, and gave up 0 catches to Evans. Over the course of the season, we've watched him grow exponentially. And it's not, I mean, he's been the Browns' best defensive back. He could blossom into one of the better cornerbacks in the entire league.
Yeah, I would agree. And, no moment seems too big, and he is just physical. That's the one thing that you like about him. Evans is a big guy, and he was physical with him. All right, and the third takeaway from that win, Jacoby Brissett should get a starting opportunity somewhere in 2023. And I think, I would think Brissett has probably, he's 31. He's 30. He'll probably be 31. I would think he's earned a bridge contract as a 1-2 year, fit for a starting quarterback.
Just think about the situation he stepped into in Cleveland, and he knew his time was going to be limited. Came in, put his best foot forward, led the team, displayed a lot of heart. He played a lot better than the 3-7 record would have indicated coming into it this last game. I'm glad they got the win. I mean, I think that's good. I feel good for Jacoby. He's always going to have a soft spot in my heart. Like, out of all the Browns' backup quarterbacks, I mean, you would argue that he's been a top 5 quarterback for this franchise since they returned in '99. And I think he's a perfect candidate to go to a team who's kind of in quarterback flux, whether they're going to draft a young guy and have to develop him over the course of the season or two, or if it's a situation where a team is going into like a 3rd or 4th year with a quarterback and they need someone to come in and kind of push them in competition. I think Jacoby would be a perfect candidate for that.
All right, so we talked a little bit about Martin Emerson in the game he had against the Buccaneers. Former NFL player Brian Baldinger breaks down some of him against Mike Evans.
For best play by a cornerback in any game this year goes to the rookie Martin Emerson of the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. He literally shut down Mike Evans by himself. Like, the very next play after that incompletion, they went right back to Mike Evans. Because Tom Brady's like, I'm getting the ball over this guy. I'm going to get it into the end zone before halftime. Not against Martin Emerson, you're not. Like, whatever they wanted to do, move him into the slot, stack him, whatever they wanted, he tangles him up right here. Evans can't get loose, incomplete pass. Mike Evans was completely shut down in this game by the rookie Martin Emerson Jr. The Browns' first pick, the second pick in the second round, first pick for theirs. Like, it didn't matter. Evans tries to get out on him right here. They can't get the ball to him. The Academy Award goes to Martin Emerson. Like Cameron Brate, okay, it wasn't just Mike Evans. It was the whole receiving corps, whoever he had. Like, he thought he should have had a pick right here. He knew he had safety help behind him. He jumped the route. He did everything but come up with a catch. That was the easy part.
And Casey, obviously he was a 3rd-round pick, but that we digress. He's physical enough to play against decent NFL tight end in Cameron Brate, but you saw the physicality, and if you can do that against a Mike Evans, there's not too many guys that are going to bully you in the NFL.
Yeah, you can tell he's a pain to go up against, He gets in the receiver's face, and he's there for the whole play, and he trusts his technique. He's physical without being overly handsy. And we saw Seattle defensive backs get away with that for years. And that is, of course, the system which Joe Woods came from. So you can see why he would like someone like Emerson. The one thing about Emerson I think that sticks out really is he wants the smoke. He wanted that matchup with Evans. There's not too many rookies you're going to find in this league that realistically actually want that matchup. And you have to have that in you to be great. And you can tell that Emerson does have that.
All right, let's take a look at Pro Football Focus grades for the Browns Week 12 against the Buccaneers. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah grades out as the best, 83.6. The quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, at 73.7. Then some more defensive guys. Myles Garrett, 73.3. One of the young DBs, Graham, 70.7. John Johnson III, 70.3. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a guy that kind of flashed in that, when I was watching, he kind of was like, oh, this is what we've kind of been missing with him banged up.
Yeah, it seems like his speed is back, like he's playing fast again. And a big thing was him just being disciplined, because when he's disciplined and playing fast, he's almost impossible to account for, because he can make plays that he shouldn't be able to make. And that's going to be the next evolution of his game. And we'll see how it goes from season to season. He showed him some flashes earlier in the year, got banged up. It seems like he's getting his legs back, and he should be able to show himself well down the stretch.
We showed a little bit from Brian Baldinger earlier in the show. Myles Garrett, especially in the fourth quarter and overtime, boy, did he show up when they needed him.
Yeah, especially after that shot he took from Shaq Mason on that spin move. You seen the way he went off the field with his arm hanging. I thought he might have tore something. I thought that might have been all we saw. Came back, had 2 sacks after that. That just shows you the want to, and and just finish strong. Because Garrett's always a problem, And you're playing a team like Tampa. Tom gets rid of the ball so fast, it's really hard to have an impact as a pass rusher. But he stayed with it, and ended up paying dividends down the stretch.
He said he wanted to get 2 sacks against Brady. He got 2 sacks. You have to, whenever he comes out and makes a statement, it seems like he finds a way to back it up.
Yeah, and you have to, or if not, those words just become empty. So when your best player is out there making those kind of statements and going up there and backing it up with his play, there's nothing you can say about it. And Myles has his detractors because he doesn't get 8 sacks a game, But, in the NFL, man, that's like the hardest thing to do, especially when you're the guy. You're the guy they circle going into the week. They know what you do. They're going to scheme everything around you. Like I said, with Tampa, they get the ball out so quick. They try to mitigate a lot that way, and they still weren't able to.
Casey Kinnamon, Dawg Pound Daily, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear Scott Pioli, former GM, what he thinks about some of the challenges that Deshaun Watson will face in his return to the field on Sunday. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Scott Pioli, former general manager of the New England Patriots, was also in the Browns front office. Talked about some of the challenges Deshaun Watson will face as he returns to the field this Sunday.
My expectations are limited because there's definitely going to be a transition period for the Browns' new quarterback. Again, it's going to be a physical transition and there's going to be a mental transition. You mentioned the fact that he hasn't played in almost 2 years. So a lot of the game is about timing, particularly for quarterbacks, being on the same page with the people that you're throwing the ball to, the people that you're making play action fakes with. So a lot has been done in practice the last couple of weeks, but game speed is completely different than practice speed and training speed. So that's going to be the physical part. And when we get to the mental part, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he's treated during road games, how he's treated by his own home fans. The other thing is this, Vlad, the quarterback position is so important in terms of relationships and how he's accepted by his teammates. Because of these past circumstances, I'm guessing that there are some people in that locker room that aren't necessarily on board with him. They'll do what they have to do maybe to be a good teammate. But then the other side of that is going to be the mental part of his opponents and the defensive players and how they are going to handle and treat him.
Casey, I think the timing issue, I'm concerned about it, but I think his athleticism is kind of an equalizer for that.
Yeah, I agree. The timing is, it's only going to be an issue so long as they let it be an issue. They're going to do stuff to get him in his rhythm and get the ball out and get into some guys' hands. I don't think it's going to be something that stays around for long. And all things considered, you're coming back off a 700-day layoff. I know there's going to be a lot of emotions involved, but you'd want to play a less than stellar team, and that's what the Texans are. So it's not like he's coming out and they're all facing a Bills defense all of a sudden, He's going to have time to get his legs under him. And his athleticism, as you mentioned, like that's going to be a big equalizer. And it's going to change other facets of the game too, not just the passing game. So I don't think whatever limitations he has from a timing perspective will stick around for long.
Now the road crowds are going to be all over him, but he's got to expect that. I would expect that. I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, and that's what Pioli, he said that how the crowds are going to treat him. We know how the crowds are going to treat him. That's a foregone conclusion. It's how he reacts to that.
Right.
Does he let it get him too amped up? Does it take him out of his rhythm, or does he stay, blinders on and be able to focus all that out and let the game slow down?
All right, we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, I'm Damien, big Browns fan for years, diehard. I really, really feel as though like it's a lot of talent on the team, but Joe Woods got to go. And I want to know who qualifies for that job. If it ain't Zimmer, I don't want to see nobody else. I want to see an older guy, experienced, old school, smash nose. Football on the defense side. Offense is perfectly fine. I think the defense needs work next year's Super Bowl.
As always, appreciate it. Fangio's another guy. Zimmer's a guy. What I would say is if you're going to move away from Joe Woods, which I could certainly understand, I want to see somebody that's more aggressive. And I don't mean necessarily blitzing. I mean, go get somebody whose defense dictates something instead of, I keep hearing multiple and we can do this. It's like make the offense react to you.
Yeah, I agree with the caller. Joe Woods has to go. What almost concerns me is I think the Browns could find themselves in a Zach Taylor situation if they play so well down the stretch that people will just all of a sudden have amnesia and don't remember that for the past 3 years we've been seeing the same problems manifest just because they work it out down the stretch. They need a new voice in that room to lead that side of the ball. But I don't think it's going to be one of the names that we're comfortable with. I don't think it's going to be a Zimmer or a Fangio. I think it's going to be, it's definitely not going to be Greg Williams, so we can get that out. But I think it's going to be like it needs to be, I don't have a name to bring to you in particular. I just think it's going to be a younger coach who kind of understands the evolution of how the game's changing, because that's what you have to stay with. And you have to stay with someone who's going to play with the base level of a 4-3. But understand that this team has a really good cornerback room, and you have Myles Garrett and you have JOK. Everything else is kind of on the table, so it's going to be someone who kind of embraces, like you said, the aggressiveness. I want to see someone who plays press man. I want to see some guys get physical at the line of scrimmage instead of playing this passive type of defense that they've been playing for the last couple of years. So there's going to be a change coming. I just don't think it's going to be one of the names that we're used to seeing get a defensive coordinator job. I think it's going to be an up and coming.
Yeah, that could be. My only thought with a veteran guy is it's like the Bill Callahan of the defense. Go get somebody that can be a resource because earlier in the show we showed how successful Kevin Stefanski has been at elevating quarterback play. Let him call the plays. Get somebody that is like a defensive head coach, if you will. All right, Pro Football Focus. Top 25 free agents after this season. Number 18, offensive lineman Jack Conklin. It'll be interesting to see if they try to re-sign him, if they can find a way to make that work financially. He's been pretty good when he's been healthy. He's been beat up a little bit.
Yeah, his play the last few games has been subpar, and how much of that's due to him coming back so soon from a torn patella? I mean, that's a serious injury, and who knows what other factors it's causing. He might be compensating with other parts of his body that are causing different kinds of stress, but he hasn't been the same in the run game. And where he always excelled at in the run game was the zone blocking, which the Browns have moved away from. They're doing much more pin and pull type schemes, which really doesn't play to his strengths. And I just got to be honest, I don't see him here next year. He will be a coveted free agent because he's a solid right tackle in the league. he is having a bit of a down year, but he's only 29 years old, and he'll be a year removed from that surgery. So I do see him getting paid elsewhere.
This is another one that's interesting. ESPN's top 25 under 25. Making the honorable mention is our left tackle, Jedrick Wills. Can make a really strong case for Wills to have been in the top 25, given his skill set on the edge. Lateral foot speed pops, as do his powerful hands technique. Pass blocking win rate 94.1, ranks third among offensive tackles. And again, that's a guy that a lot of the fan base is not happy with. And again, you don't hear his name called a lot, so that's usually an indication that he's doing just fine.
Yeah, he's getting dragged a lot on social media. A lot of that's due to the fact that a lot of people have access to all 22 that maybe should not. And you see clips posted, and like you said, with an offensive lineman, when you hear their names, it's usually not for a good reason. And he did have a hold at a crucial time. But, I think if you were to poll all 32 general managers on left tackles you could have for the next 2 or 3 years, I think a lot of them would take Wills over who they currently have. He's not perfect by any means, and he hasn't played to the point where you're willing to just give him a blank check and say, we want you long term. And if that's what he's after, he probably won't be here after his 5th-year option. But he's your left tackle for the next 2 seasons. He's coming along decently in some aspects of his game. You still want to see him finish more. But overall, like I said, a lot of teams would rather have Jedrick Wills than who they currently have.
All right, time for our Nick Chubb is good tweet of the day. So this is a list of players to run for at least 950 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns in each of their first 5 seasons. LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson, Nick Chubb. Again, if you're on a list that has LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson on it, you're doing pretty well, and you're on track to be where LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson are headed, which is the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
When I see that, I get mad at that last game of the 2018 season where Chubb had over 1,000 yards, and they gave him one more carry at the end, and he had -4, and it knocked him below 1,000, because that should say 1,000. Every time you see Chubb on these graphs, it's always him and all-time greats, because that's the era he's put himself in with his play. And even he's had a couple down games for him these last couple games, but you see what happens when you just keep giving him the ball over time. Water finds this level, and now going forward, especially with Deshaun at quarterback, the way the defenses are going to have to play, I think you're going to see Chubb's name along with some other all-time greats and Hall of Famers going forward.
Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear more about what some of the national folks expect to see from Deshaun Watson. We'll also look a little deeper into this Texans matchup. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon. Browns getting ready to head to Houston to play the Texans Sunday at 1. Deshaun Watson's first regular season game as the Browns starting quarterback. Chris Sims from Pro Football Talk on what to expect from Deshaun Watson.
Hey, this was a guy that was a top 5 quarterback in football before all this went down. He was awesome. And now he hasn't played in over, or 2 years basically. And he got a brand new huge contract. They got to play him. They got to get him out there and get him reps to get him ready for next year. I mean, there's just a lot of craziness about this conversation. And yeah, even though it doesn't maybe have quite the luster I thought maybe it would be, it's still a pretty remarkable story. I think the good thing is for the NFL, Mike, that there's a lot of other good games this weekend too that will take the attention away from this game to where it doesn't become the top story in the sport on Sunday.
And Casey, I I think the Browns view it as they still have a shot to make the playoffs this year. I think they feel they can run the table, and that's probably what it will take.
Yeah, they could even run the table and still miss out. I mean, their margins are that razor thin, but they have to handle their business, and they got a good bit of confidence, especially in that closing that game out against Tampa. How many times have we seen that play out where they come up just short, So to actually get over that hump, and it was what we expected to see all year. We expected coming into the year to have games where the defense kept you in it, the offense did just enough, and we finally saw a game actually play out like that. But now you get the prince that was promised. Now you get Deshaun Watson. Now it's a little different. Now the momentum you build can be more explosive. And, I think it's wild that the NFL set his suspension up so it ends with him playing Houston in his first game. To me, I'll never understand how they let that happen. But we're here now, so, whatever happens, happens. There's going to be a lot of noise associated with it. Let's just hope the team can block it out.
All right, what do you want to see from Watson? What would constitute a successful Browns debut? Obviously a win, but what else do you want to see?
I just want to see him get back to being him. I want to see the comfortability, the calm, and the chaos. When the Browns made the trade for Watson, the first thing I did is I went back and watched every rep he's taken as a pro. He makes so many things look easy that are not easy. I just want to see that. I just want to see you go out there and make some plays. There's going to be stuff obviously on script, and it's going to come out timing plays, but the other things that he does, his ability to extend plays, his ability to hurt a defense, his ability to hurt you with his legs when you don't see it coming. Like that's what I want to see. I just want to see him get back to being himself so that this team can actually get going and kind of show us what it's going to look like going forward.
All right, Dawg Pound Daily, 5 bold predictions for the Browns against the Texans. Number 5, Martin Emerson gets a pick 6. Number 4, Chubb goes for 175 yards. Myles Garrett gets 2 sacks is number 3, 2 more sacks. Number 2, Deshaun Watson runs and throws for a touchdown. And number 1, Browns win by double digits. When you look at that, none of those are unrealistic. I get the feeling they might throw the ball more than most people think they might.
Yeah, I could see Chubb getting over 100, but I could also see this, 30 to 35 pass attempts, which will kind of take his availability to get 175 off the table. But there's numbers 2 and number 1 on there. I think Watson scoring with his arms and his legs, I think that's an expectation for me this week. And the Browns should win by double digits. This is a game they should win by double digits. Now, will they? Time will tell. So far this season, they haven't really hit their layups, but this is one that's on the table to be a layup if they take it to Houston early and put their foot on their throat. So I hope that one holds true.
Yeah, they're currently 7-point favorites. Let's close with this. What do you think? How do you think this offense looks different with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback?
I think personnel is going to be different. I think you're going to see them live in 11 personnel with 3 receivers on the field. I think you're going to see a lot less of Harrison Bryant as long as Njoku's healthy. And you're going to see light boxes. They're not going to be able to stack the box with 9 players anymore. Those days are gone. So I expect to see a different approach how defenses, try to handle the Browns. And I would like to see, I think the Browns will use a lot more of the pistol. And we're going to see some RPO, which we haven't seen this team run yet.
Yeah, and the other thing, so when I think of Watson, makes plays where he scrambles, uses his feet, then beats with his arm, throws to his tight end, hits seams a lot with his tight end, and the RPO, which he's very good at.
Yeah, and we've yet to see this team operate out of that. And we don't, how's the team going to adjust when it's Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb back there and Watson pulls it and keeps it himself and the whole team's keying on the running back? Like, this is the best unit that Deshaun's played with. He's had some talented receiver at times in his career, but he's yet to have a line like this, and he definitely hasn't had a running game like this. So it's going to be very exciting to see how he performs.
The other thing is you have the Texans in week 1. If you're Kevin Stefanski, do you hold some stuff back because you have the Bengals and then the Ravens? And if you can get by those 2, then running the table becomes a whole lot more realistic.
Yeah, those are the 2 most difficult games remaining on the schedule, and they're both on the road. Yeah, they're not going to they shouldn't have to empty the gun against the Texans. So they should definitely keep some things close to the vest on that one. I definitely think that we're going to see some things that we haven't seen. I like the fact that they got Anthony Schwartz involved early in the last game to kind of get his confidence built up, because I think he could have more of a role with Watson going forward. So I would like to see some explosive plays this week.
Casey Kinnamon, Dawg Pound Daily, as always. Great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, Casey Kinnamon, make sure you check him out, Dawg Pound Daily. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. See you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.